You've probably heard someone say that people with diabetes need to eliminate many foods from their routine. But what many people don't realize is that some of the most dangerous foods are actually part of the daily lives of millions of people. While some believe the problem is only sugar, specialists discovered that certain seemingly innocent foods can cause massive spikes in blood glucose. And there's a curious detail. Some products sold as healthy can actually be worse than desserts. But almost nobody talks about that. And that's exactly what you're going to discover today. Because after this video, you may never look at certain foods the same way again. When we talk about diabetes or excess weight, many people think only about sweets. But the real problem is often hidden in foods consumed every single day. Especially ultra-processed foods, rich in sugar, refined flour, and artificial ingredients. And one of the first examples is breaded foods. Nuggets. Processed snacks. Breaded fish. Breaded chicken. Cordon bleu. Many people look at these foods and think, but it has protein. And it really does. The problem is what comes with it. The breaded coating is usually rich in refined carbohydrates and low in fiber. Result: sugar enters the bloodstream very quickly. And that can cause major glucose fluctuations, even when the food looks healthy on the outside. Another thing that surprises many people is fruit juice. Because for many years, it was seen as a symbol of health. But there is a huge difference between eating fruit and drinking its juice. When fruit is turned into juice, much of the fiber disappears. And without fiber, sugar is absorbed much faster. That's why, even natural fruit juices can create major glucose spikes. And that also applies to homemade juices. Meanwhile, whole fruit tends to have a much smaller impact on the body. Mainly because of its natural fiber. Now there's a category that practically everyone already imagines. Cookies. Filled cookies. Chocolate. Snack foods. Processed sweets. Sugary cereals. These foods usually contain large amounts of sugar, fat, and ultra-processed ingredients. And besides making blood sugar rise quickly, hunger often returns shortly afterward, creating a cycle that's difficult to control. And there's another important detail. Many people believe homemade desserts stop being harmful. But even homemade recipes can still contain excessive sugar and refined flour. That's why balance continues to be essential. Another group that deserves attention is ultra-processed foods. Frozen pizza. Ready-made lasagna. Instant noodles. Processed sauces. Frozen meals. Besides hidden sugar, many of these foods also contain large amounts of sodium, fat, and chemical additives. And the problem is that they became part of many people's routines precisely because of convenience. But the body pays a price for that. Because the more artificial the food, the greater the metabolic impact tends to be. That's why preparing more natural meals can make a huge difference over time. Now there's something many people completely forget about. Alcohol. Especially sweet alcoholic drinks. Cocktails. Mixed drinks. Liqueurs. Sweet sparkling beverages. Many of these drinks work almost like liquid sugar bombs. And the worst part? Because they are consumed quickly, the impact on the body can be even more intense. Even drinks that seem light can contain surprising amounts of sugar. Another important point involves refined carbohydrates. White bread. White rice. Traditional pasta. White flour. These foods are usually absorbed quickly by the body. And that favors sudden increases in blood glucose. Meanwhile, whole grain versions tend to slow that absorption down. Because they contain more fiber. And many people notice that, after a few weeks, their taste buds naturally adapt. Now comes something that surprises many people. The traditional breakfast. Bread with jam. Croissants. Sugary cereals. Chocolate milk powder. Pastries. All of that can trigger a sugar explosion in the first hours of the day. And that directly affects hunger, energy, and even mood throughout the next several hours. That's why many people started replacing this type of meal with options richer in fiber and protein. Another food that seems harmless, but deserves attention, is mashed potatoes. Because even though potatoes are natural foods, when they are heavily processed and mashed, the glycemic impact can increase significantly. Especially with processed mashed potatoes. That happens because the natural structure of the food becomes altered. And the body absorbs the carbohydrates more quickly. But perhaps the biggest question of all involves fruit. After all, are fruits good or bad? The answer depends on the type and quantity. Some fruits contain more fiber and have less glycemic impact. Others contain large amounts of sugar. Apples. Pears. Strawberries. Raspberries. These are usually more balanced options. Meanwhile, dried fruits, watermelon, mangoes, and very ripe bananas may raise blood sugar more quickly in some people. But there's an important detail here. The problem is rarely one isolated food, but rather the frequency, quantity, and overall eating context. Now there's a simple, but extremely important piece of advice. The more natural the food is, the better it tends to be for the body. That's why foods closer to their original form are usually smarter choices. And there's another detail many people don't notice. The time you eat can also make a difference. Consuming sweets or highly sugary foods on an empty stomach tends to create stronger impacts. Meanwhile, eating them after balanced meals may slow down sugar absorption. And perhaps the most curious thing of all is realizing that many foods considered normal today simply were not part of older generations' diets in the same way. Today, excess processed food is everywhere. And the body eventually feels it. Especially over the years. Now tell me here in the comments. Which of these foods surprised you the most? And could you eliminate any of them from your routine? If this video helped you, take a moment to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Because there are many common habits that may be silently affecting people's health without them even realizing it. And in the next video, you may discover another one.